Hello, Kelvin.
Hey, how are you, man? Greetings.
I'm good. Welcome to the live stream. How are you doing?
I am doing pretty well myself, I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to know you're good.
Yeah, man.
So, I think we should just begin right away
You're not
while
waiting
the
on
others.
anybody else for me?
You said?
No, I was asking if you're not waiting on anybody else to join.
Well, they will join us. I think once they see that the conversation is underway, then they can always join us. So, or do you think we should wait a bit?
I have no problem with either options.
Okay. So, let's just do a little small talk before some other person joins. Let me post the link here so that other people can call in. Those that want to call in can call in. So, I understand you are an economist.
No, I am not an economist. I am studying economics in school at the moment, but I would not consider myself an economist.
Okay, you're studying economics in school. How far gone
Yeah.
are you
I'm
currently
in my
with your
last year.
studies?
My last
Oh,
year.
good. So you're almost an economist.
Mm, Probably, I would. Yeah, I'm not sure what will be my step after graduate. No, after graduate. Yes, I'm not sure if I will do a postgraduate, but I do like economics. It tends to widen my worldview and deepen my understanding of socioeconomic concepts. So, so I probably do a postgraduate in economics. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's good. So, you always wanted to do economics, or
I've always been a fan of numerical analysis. It was always something that piqued my interest at a extremely young age. A mathematicians, so I went into university wanting to do mathematics, but then I realized that economics incorporates a lot of numerical analysis. So I encountered an economic teacher, a lecturer, who really piqued, inspired my interest in economics, and I just plan to major in economics.
that's great.
Hmm.
I never had such love for mathematical calculations. I just started having how will I call it, some liking for economics because of my engagement on YouTube and my engagement with other people. I'm beginning to see how important economics is as
Hmm.
a science or as a social science. But while I was in school, in secondary school, even while I was in university, economics wasn't something that really appealed to me. But it is an interesting, it's a fascinating science right now.
Yeah, yeah, what you will realize is, and this is a very pivotal distinction that should be made, that there's two branches of economics. Well, two major branches of economics. You have a more mathematical analysis, and you have a more philosophical analysis. When you see people, for example, I realize that you're a big fan of probably Glenn, Laurie, Thomas Sowell, and those
Yeah.
people who lie mainly on the right. What they engage in is more, what would I say, philosophical analysis, economics. Yes, it's less
Okay.
mathematical. Because I've read up um, research done by Glenn Laurie, him and Richard Roland Fryer did
Yeah.
something on affirmative action. I'm not sure if you ever read this paper. It's several reasons or several myths about affirmative action. I was reading it, I think day before yesterday, because my engagement with Glenn Laurie, to be honest, came from a video I saw on your channel. So I
Okay.
did some background research on him. And yes, so what I'm saying, they take a more qualitative approach in their economic analysis, less of a mathematical approach. When it come on like to economists like Paul Krugman, I'm not sure if you're aware of Paul Krugman.
No, I'm not.
So so yeah, people like Paul Krugman, when they're doing economic analysis, they will have some big equations um, to do their form of analysis. So I tend to say I realize that more economists that tend to be more mathematical rooted in their analysis tend to lean a little bit more left than the one who was more philosophical, like Thomas Sowell and Glenn Laurie, and those people tend to be on the right, who is more qualitative and less numerical in their analysis.
So, is there a disconnect between the philosophical and the quantitative aspects of economics?
Um, in yes and no. Let me explain why I said yes. Because of one of the
Okay.
points I laid out a while ago that some of the mean do you understand the difference between causality and a relation?
Yeah, to an extent.
All right, so a relation is if you move a variable or you change a variable, you can identify another change within a variable. But a causal relation is if you move this variable, there's a direct link between a change in this variable. So when it comes on to causality, causality is extremely difficult to prove. How do we move from here to here? So a lot of claim that I heard made on the right is, for example, if we change the minimum wage or if we increase the tax rate on corporation, how will that directly um have, or will it affect demonstrate on the economy, right? So those are
Yeah.
causal studies that we need to investigate, and I don't think a qualitative approach to those analysis is useful, because I think people who make claim like Glenn Laurie, they will say, okay, corporations should be taxed less, and we should reduce the welfare and those stuff. They have numerically done these assessments to make this claim, and this is where my disagreement with those individuals stem from. They have no numerical backing to make any suggestion they are making. But whenever you look on the numerical claim, because these are study that has been done already, they're on the line, and I have a lot of them here today, which I would love to share with you guys. So these studies are
That would be
done.
great.
Yeah, man, sure. Have them here because I was doing some preparation for today because I really want to lay out a good argument for the show. So yeah, man, there are numerical studies in when we change this variable and how much changes can be done to this variable in order to receive a specific outcome. So those are the causal factor that numerical economics tend to focus on, and I think that's an area in which qualitative or non-numerical analysis of economics is lacking. Like Thomas Sowell and Glenn Laurie and those people, I think in order for me to take their critique of our economical situation more seriously, they have to have some form of numerical backing behind it.
Okay. That's fair. It's only fair that any assertion that they're making, they're able to back it up with data.
Yeah,
So
because
it's not just. Go ahead.
because they always make this claim. I've always heard the claim, right? So, for example, before the civil rights in the 1940s, right? They used to like family or single parent family was extremely low, and after the Great Society, single parent family was higher. That's a claim that has
Cool.
always been made by conservative. But while those variables are true, their attempt to link those two variables has been very much insubstantive. They haven't proved that link. Throwing out statistic does not prove a correlating or causal factor. I think there's a lot of studies done in the social science that can disprove many of the claims that has been made. Because in order for you to throw two number in two different time period, there's a lot of variables that change within those period that we have to account for. And I think in order for us to account for those variables, we have to do more of a studies in which we hold certain variable constant, right? And we all in
Okay.
certain variable constant help us to see the causality that lies between one variable and the other. You cannot just throw numbers like that and expect people to just observe it like that. I think that is a bit counter intellectual at times, and I think I see it a lot on the right.
So can you give me one specific example of such a ploy by the right and give me the data against it,
All
against
right,
their
so
claims?
no problem. So one of the claim here, right? And I think we addressed this. I could touch on the minimum wage, but I one of the most pervasive talking point on the right is the idea of the welfare state. So the welfare state was mainly implemented after the Civil Rights Act was passed by LBJ. It was an initiative about the war and poverty, and we
Yeah.
increase our social. It was merely an extension of FDR, the Great Society. So what his attempt to remedy poverty was to increase people disposable income. So we provide them governmental assistance until they reach a certain financial status. Then we
Mm.
remove the financial assistance. So no, two claims can be made, and these are two contradicting claims. The first claim is giving people financial assistance will disincentivize them to get work, and therefore it's not good to give people financial assistance because that can reduce the labor participation rate. Fine, that is a
Yeah.
completely rational claim to make. All right. Secondly, another claim made by liberals is that um, we need to be able to adequately cater to people at the lower income level in order for us to stimulate the economy. And in doing so, in stimulating the economy, we rise people out of poverty. So, based on that assessment, the welfare state, those two ideas or two theory has been put forward. No, one is being used by the conservative, the other has been used by the liberals. Fine. How do we substantiate these claims? No, there's a study done by Harvard, and I have it here, showing how can I send it to you?
Um,
So the study is
okay.
basically debunking the
Just quote the
stereotype.
study.
So the study is yeah, you can type it in when you're ready. So the study said debunking the stereotype of lazy welfare recipient. Evidence from cash transfer payment worldwide. So this is basically claiming that the idea that providing cash incentive to people disincentivize people from working is quite not substantiated by the data at all. And this has been a very rigorous mathematical analysis. If you go through the study, you will realize that no, we can look at other countries that have well developed economies, and this theory has it's completely fall apart. For example, countries that have more and better welfare state tend to have higher productivity rate, higher higher labor participation rate, because people, I said this on the last stream, respond to financial incentive. And the more incentive you give people to work, the more people are likely to work. That is true. So, for example, we go to some Nordic country like Sweden and those countries and check, or even Canada, how much money they allocate to welfare, and if those individuals are still want to work. And that is true because, as I said to you, there are a lot of countries that provide adequate welfare for the people of the population, and they still have a high labor participation rate. So the idea that welfare disincentivize people from working is not true. Welfare produce more um, what do I say, economic lubricant for people to mobilize themselves and go through life in a more productive and easy way. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Kevin is here. There's another Kevin. So welcome
What's
to the
up?
live stream, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm pretty good, guys. I got the Vincent, my Nigerian buddy,
Yeah.
who's in Florida right now. He gave me the link, and this is my first time coming up over here. And you are from the U. This is the UK sector, correct?
Oh no, this is I'm actually in Nigeria, calling from
Oh,
Nigeria.
oh yeah.
So
Okay, well, yeah, that's right. We
yeah,
spoke before. Okay, okay, okay. So what are you
yeah.
guys talking about?
So basically, in general, the main topic we're talking about tax cuts. Who do they benefit the most? But so we're just warming up, and Kevin is telling me about how there are two components to economics. There's the philosophical aspect of it, and then there's the quantitative aspect of it, and both are being used by the right and the left. Mostly the right uses the philosophical aspect and the left uses the quantitative. So he's trying to make me understand certain things. For example, how the right claims that welfare makes people lazy and makes them not want to get work. So he's trying to disprove that claim. So
Hmm.
that's where we are currently. So
Okay.
yeah. So do you want to say anything, or should he just continue before you jump in?
Oh, I thought that he was going to continue. I'll let him continue, and then I'll chime in. Is that all right?
Yeah, that'll be good.
Okay.
That'll be good. Yeah. So, Kevin, Kevin B. Black, back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to push back a little bit. So you said when people are given more incentive to work,
Mm-hmm.
they work. How is welfare an incentive to work?
All right. So let's say no. Let's theorize a society in which there are people who are at the extreme, how do I say, bottom of the barrel, extremely low on the income level, and that person afford children to go to school. Do you think our society would be best if the government allocates some of its budget to help those individual, or do you think society would work best if the government does say, okay, let's leave those people alone?
Well, no, not really, but it's not a straight situation in the sense that people would find a way to make ends meet somehow or another. They may get a job. It may not be up to what they want or what they expect, but somehow they will get a job, and somehow they will get by. So, but if they have the notion that the government is always going to come to their rescue at every point in time, then I think it kind of reduces the incentive to want to work. For
But I
instance, I
have,
was reading
have
a study.
I think I've
Uh,
I
let
think
me
I've
let me finish. I
demonstrated.
was
Sorry,
I
sorry,
was
sorry.
I was reading this. Okay, I was reading a study that said that and the amount of money that a woman in welfare in I think in the 60s or so, the amount of money she receives um, for welfare and not having a man in the house was about $20,000, which is equivalent to $90,000 in today's money. And for
Mhm.
anybody to, for you to be able to make that amount of money, to to not be on welfare, then you have to really do very well. So it pays her more to be on welfare than to get a job that will pay her less than $20,000, or maybe a job that will pay her 15 or 10,000. So if she makes the calculation and says that I'm getting this much from the government, there's no amount of work I'm going to do right now with my skill, my level of education, and all that that's going to get me up to what the government is doing. She might as well just relax and collect the paycheck from the government.
Yeah, but I think that I agree with you, but that doesn't pan out in theory. And I would like to see that study because I am showing you, like we can compare America welfare state to other country welfare state. Canada have a more robust welfare state than America. The UK have a more robust welfare state than America. When the pandemic hit UK and Canada, they were giving way huger check than what America was giving out. Like they are a country that have way more robust state than America, and they have higher labor participation rate. So the idea that when you increase welfare, it reduce people's ability to work, that is not true. Like there's a lot of stuff that reduces people's ability to work. Low wages reduces people's ability to work, and that is the main factor why people rather to stay on welfare than to work because wages has been stagnant for the last 50 years. The wages hasn't kept up for the last 50 years. So people do not want to work. Let me give you a perfect example. Right since when the pandemic was brushing off in the United States, there was a labor shortage because of the last stimulus check that was passed by Congress. There was a labor shortage because people were getting the stimulus check, unemployment benefit, and they were staying home. So employers were complaining that enough workers aren't there. Cool. So for I think for a month or so they were complaining. You know why laborers there was a shortage of labor? Because they were
Wow.
refusing to increase their wage. The moment it's last 2 week, employment now is picking up back because people in certain states now are increasing the wage, and no, their application has been flooded with people who want to work. People on a fundamental level value social mobility. Nobody want to sit down on a government check for the rest of their life with 4 kids. I think that is just a cynical way to look at people. People want to go up the income scale. People don't want to go to work and work 4 jobs and I live paycheck to paycheck. But there is no incentive there for people to work. And I'm saying if you look at other country that provide incentive for people to work, they get off welfare state and they work.
Uh, Kevin, are you saying
Resonance.
Kevin?
Hey guys.
Kevin, are you saying are you saying that? And correct me if I'm. I mean, I just got in. Uh,
Resonance, please mute yourself. You're kind of
Okay.
interfering.
Okay.
Yeah.
so Kevin Black. So I got in a little bit late on the topic. Are you saying that human beings by nature, uh, given the okay, so are you saying that human beings will always have the drive to work to better themselves?
Exactly. That's a fundamental concept to our human psychology. We want to better
Really?
ourselves. I
Okay.
know sometimes, wait, let me
Mhm.
just finish.
Oh
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
sometimes it's very tempting to look at a specific, in a very pessimistic way. But people want to own a house, buy a car, want pretty jewelry. People are incentivized to do those stuff. Yes, on a fundamental, rational level. Yes,
Well, hmm. Okay. Um. So I live
that's
in.
economic, basic
So
economic.
I live in the United States, right?
Hmm.
And I'm following you on the fundamental aspect of it, meaning that if we were living in the jungles, a person would want a certain level of shelter and food. I can understand that, but with a lot of, in my opinion, and I could be wrong. From what I've seen, especially in the states, you have a lot of poor whites and you have a lot of poor blacks, and a lot of these people are living on welfare, and a lot of them, because they have a welfare, because they have food, shelter from the government, you have two and three generations of families that have been on welfare because they're not thriving to better themselves. They're comfortable. Their creature comforts have been met. So I understand where you're coming from, but I think, where do creature comforts stop? So I don't know how it is in the intricacies of how Nigeria works, and I don't know how it is in the UK. Oh, and I do know how it is in the UK, but people generally, not generally, but the people in the United States, a lot of times people, if they're on welfare, they're not thriving to better themselves. So
That is not true. I disagree with you
let me ask you a question.
fundamentally.
Have you ever been to the US?
No, I live in Jamaica.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so I am familiar though with many researches that are stemming from the United States, and
Okay.
I don't think I need to be live in the United States to make any
Okay.
assessment, because I'm sure you haven't met everybody that live in the United States. I
Absolutely
think
not. No. And I've never really been,
besides,
and I'm not really even around women or people who are on welfare. It's just that I have seen it in terms of, I was a teacher at one point in time. I also worked in law enforcement, and I also was a social worker. And I can tell you from my perspective with the people that I've dealt with, that a lot of times, if they're on welfare, they're not thinking about bettering themselves educationally, socially, etc. Again, you have two and three generations of families that have been on the
I
welfare system.
Hi, Kevin.
I see what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you. There
Hmm.
are with every government initiative, with every policy that government seeks to implement, there will always be free riders. There will always be people who take advantage of this initiative. I am not in any way denying that.
Hey,
There will
Kevin.
be people on welfare that wants to be on welfare for some
Hmm.
strange reason. But I do not think that is indicative of the population or indicative of everyone. I think that is a very simplistic assessment that doesn't pin out to the data at all, because I have
Yeah.
seen studies upon study, and this to me is somewhat of a narrative that has been um, inculcated in people over the years, like the right wing, especially Bill O'Reilly. Used to watch Bill O'Reilly growing up, when he used to just go look for people on welfare, put them on TV, find those people who take advantage of welfare just to make people on welfare look bad. But there's a historical context to this that I think we should take note of also.
Residents, you had a question?
Yeah, resonance. Go ahead. You wanted to say something.
Yeah. I think there is a way to like check whether welfare incentivizes or disincentivizes people from working. Like if you take if there's a way you can compare the list of families that have been in welfare, right? Whether those families end up getting off welfare, and the families that don't start with welfare, whether they go into welfare or whether they jump in the income levels. So are there any studies like related to that?
That's a
Do
very
you get
good
me?
point. So,
What was
yeah,
that?
Kevin Black, you want to respond?
What was your question?
Yeah, like studies like you study like are there any studies like that follow families on welfare and see whether they do eventually get off that welfare? They do
No,
eventually
I
jump.
mean, a lot of people. No, I think I just laid a point out, and I think there are studies to back me up on this. That the reason why people don't get off welfare is because of stagnant wages. You can check this. Real wages hasn't
Okay, so
increased.
what is
Time.
responsible for increasing wages?
Pardon me.
If as you as a person, right? If you want to increase your wages, how would you increase your wages, Kevin?
Oh, I would work more jobs.
Is it necessarily working more jobs? Does necessarily working more jobs increase your wages?
Yeah, working more job will increase the amount of money you
I mean,
receive.
like, is that the only way?
Yeah, we can. incentivize business to
No, I think the best way to increase your wages is to improve your skill level. Don't you agree?
no, I think we cannot address systematical issue solely on an individual level. There are people, in my opinion, that does not have the incentive to increase their skill level based on
Why
certain
why don't they
socioeconomic
have that
factors.
incentive? What do you think is disincentivizing people from trying to improve themselves? Like for example, I was talking with someone the other day and I was like, there's a lot of free education online. I'm in the university. I just finished my final exam day before yesterday, and all through my university time, a lot of the
Hmm.
education that I got was from online for free from Khan
Hmm.
Academy, EDA, and the rest. Right, that was from my efforts. Right, I believed I wasn't getting enough from school, so I made the effort and I went online to get it. Right.
Hmm.
So like that, so a lot of the skills that I've gotten by myself by just going online that I'm using to
Yeah,
make money for myself right now. So that's
I,
why I
I,
believe that one of the best ways to increase your skill, to increase your wages is to increase your skill level. Because
Agreed.
your employer is looking for what can you offer to him. If you can offer a very, very high value to your employer, he has no choice but to pay you high wages.
I disagree. Why has wage been stagnant over the last 50 years?
Wage has not been stagnant over the last 50 years. In which country? In
We
US?
are. I
Which
can
country
one.
are you talking? Which country are you talking about?
Wages has not been stagnant. That's
All
not
right.
true.
Kevin Black, what country are you talking about?
Do I have a chat here?
Yeah, that chart, I
No.
looked into it. The productivity wages chart.
Can I interject real quick?
Mhm.
Kevin Black, I have to agree with residents. I live in the U.S., right? Um, in the U.S., you do have the opportunity to make a lot of money, investing, real estate, wage work in terms of going to a 9 to 5 job, a actual job where you get paid, etc. Your skill level really determines your wage. In America, if you get you can get 5 college degrees. If your college degrees are in psychology, sociology, criminology, you're gonna be working at Walmart making $15 an hour.
I
However, if you get a skill like in let's say a white collar skill like cloud computing, anything with hard computer programming, you're gonna make anything over 90 to $100,000 a year. A lot of blue collar jobs, like blue collar skill level jobs, like trade skills, like plumbing, electricity. Those jobs pay a lot of money because people need those amenities. People still need plumbers. People still need people to do electrical work in the household, etc. So those jobs pay a lot of money. Just because you go to a job doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna make a lot of money. You could work at McDonald's, Burger King, and Walmart, you're still going to be in the hole because those jobs pay shit. In America, it's all about skills in terms of what jobs you get with a certain skill set. It's just the honest to God's truth.
Yeah, I am not disagreeing with you
Right.
that in order for us to increase the amount of, all right, so this is where I'm looking at now. So I'm looking at um the United States Department of Labor. Yeah, that's showing that the our wages has kept up over the last 30 years. Yes. But what I'm
Kevin
saying
B.
is,
Black,
yeah,
let me
but
just interject quickly. But you
mhm.
do know that it's not just about increasing wages, because if you increase wages, you're increasing cost of production.
Yeah,
And
inflation. Yeah, inflation.
most businesses are in for um, making money. They are profit based, they're profit oriented. So if you want to increase your wages, that means you have to increase prices. And
No, no,
you know
not
where
true.
Yeah,
Not true.
Charles, let me just interject. It depends. It depends. Like, um, it depends on the way you increase the wages, right? Like, if let's talk about increase money supply inflation now. Let's talk about like Zimbabwe now, when they had their hyperinflation problem, right? The wages of people were going in the trillions, but it was basically useless. So it depends on the way you increase the wages.
That's
So
why when
what?
I mentioned real wages.
Okay,
Real
yeah,
wages
real
not
wages different
account for
from nominal
inflation.
wages. Yes, yes.
Correct. Yes.
So
But my point. Go ahead. Sorry.
okay, no,
Sorry.
continue,
Sorry.
continue.
But my
Continue.
point, I agree with you 100%. 100% that as an individual, we should be concerned about ourselves and how we can maximize ourselves within a system that we have to work in. I agree with you 100%. Like if I want to make more money, I am going to probably do a certificate program. I am probably going to do some extra curriculum stuff that will be beneficial to me in the long run. 100%. But we have to acknowledge that this does, there are certain set of people that based on their socioeconomic skill are very disadvantaged based on the situation we're in. My friend here talk about Khan economy, where he can go and watch YouTube videos or whatever. Not everybody have internet. Like there are certain factors that while we probably be above, or there are certain opportunity that we have access to, we have to acknowledge that there are certain set of people that doesn't have access to those opportunity, and we have to think about ideas and way in which we can also elevate those people. And everything I'm saying, this is some of my frustration sometimes. Whenever I make a statement, I understand that there's a counter to the statement I made. There's always a counter argument to an argument I made. So that's why when I make a statement, I want to ensure that it is rooted in some form of academic analysis, some studies or something. Then I can believe what I believe. But whenever you guys try to put a rebuttal to my argument, you're like saying, suppose this, suppose this, suppose this. I understand that we can suppose anything, but we have to be able to ground our analysis in some form of concrete firm that, hey, this is the reality, and this is how we go about acknowledging this reality.
Yeah, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but like I said previously, the academic studies that you were talking about, like you disagree with Kevin in sales that welfare does not de-incentivize work, right? That nobody wants
No,
to be living
because
on
I can
welfare.
point to you country that have more robust, well,
Uh,
like welfare give people more
no,
social mobility. That is not, that
no.
is in
So,
dispute.
are there any academic studies like in those countries that you're talking about, right? Did they do the studies in such a way that they check the families that are on that way? Like, let's take do you have any studies on Sweden, for example, now in the welfare that the people in welfare jumped from welfare, like they lifted
Exactly.
themselves up from welfare.
That is what labor participation rate is indicative of.
Yeah, do they check for the specific like which families are in welfare this year and which families jumped
All
from
right.
that
Can
welfare
I ask you-
to
we
high
both
income
know,
earning?
we both know what social mobility is, right?
Yes, we know what social mobility like. If you talk
Exactly.
about
So
if
that is
you if you
exactly
talk
what
about
social
labor
mobility.
participation rates increasing, right, that can be due to a lot of factors. But we need to check.
But no,
But
but we are
if
checking.
if
We are talking
if the
basically
question
what we are.
is if the
Mm-hmm.
question
Sorry.
is does welfare if the question is does welfare disincentivize people from working, you need to check who are those people and do they stay in the welfare state throughout or do they jump, do they leave? Because labor participation rates can increase based on
But
immigration, it can increase based on some other economic factors.
what you're asking is about social mobility. How
Yeah,
does
yeah.
people move from a social
Yeah,
class
do
to a next class?
those people
Hmm?
who are in the previous generation, do they move
Yeah,
when they're in the welfare?
but you can, like Kevin Scales, Google this for me. Like which country have the best social mobility? You can Google it. It's country that have better welfare state. It's highly correlative because we have to cater to the people at the bottom of the income level. The more we cushion people at the bottom, the more we are likely to elevate them out of poverty and low socioeconomic factor. You can,
So
I
and
disagree.
so Denmark is number one, Norway number two, Finland number three, and four is
mm-hmm,
number Sweden for in terms of social mobility. But
mm-hmm,
what's the but okay? So in terms of you were correlating welfare with social mobility, how's the welfare
mm-hmm.
system in Denmark though? Do you know?
Oh, of course, tricky. Denmark is have a very robust welfare. Like when people talk about welfare state, they talk about Denmark, Sweden, Canada, all of these countries they talk about that have a high tax, corporate tax and a more moderate progressive tax. Yes,
So
man.
it says France has the highest, and you are right. Denmark, Scandinavian countries appear high on the ranking with Denmark. Okay,
Exactly.
I can see
Yeah.
that. Okay, okay.
Yes. So that is
Yeah,
my
I'm seeing
point.
that now.
That is my, and I can, man. I'm trying. Can I get your guys? Because I'm just saying, it's here. Like we can posit what we want to posit. Say, hey, welfare make people lazy. Welfare
Hold
make
on,
people this. Welfare. We can
Kevin.
say that, but I just
Kevin.
don't think that's true.
Kevin
Okay,
Black, right?
can I come in?
Go on.
Okay, Vincent, go on. Go ahead, Vincent.
No, sorry, I just had a question for Kevin Black, right? You said that what being on the benefit system, right? That it elevates you to a higher class. Is that what
Hmm.
you're trying to say?
Oh yeah, definitely,
How
one
can
hundred
you
percent.
please explain? Because
All right,
I'm confused as to what
I
you
have
meant.
no problem. One, we have to acknowledge that a society, and this is Martin Luther King. We as a society we are judged based on our treatment of people who have the lowest amount of income. Like we should as a society address people who have worse socioeconomical condition than
Hmm.
ours. That
Hmm.
is the that is the essence of Martin Luther King. How do we have to acknowledge that sometimes people are disadvantaged, like sometimes unemployment go up and people have no control over that. They kicked off of them, they lose their jobs
Right,
and they
right.
don't know what to do. Like we have to
Mhm.
cushion these people for a while. And I'm just saying, like, just like to do what Milton Freeman said, like we need to take away welfare from
O-
these people. It's just not the way to go.
Okay. No, I agree with you there, right? I agree that in tough times that that's the purpose of the benefit of the welfare system, right? But the way you're going about it, right, it seems like, oh, it's all right, you know, for people to be on it long term. And I don't know if that's what you're trying to
I
establish.
I do not think on a
Mm,
fundamental level that people want to stay on welfare. I do not. I think people as a rational agent respond to incentive. I know
mm.
that for a fact. Kevin
You'll be
Scale is in the
surprised.
United States. Kevin State is
Yep,
in the United States. And I want
right.
Kevin to fact check everything what I said.
Oh,
Because most
hi,
of my
Kevin.
analysis
Look,
are
Kevin,
from
Yeah,
the
so
it's also
United States.
I'm seeing
Kevin.
something here. Okay,
Go on.
so not only so from what I'm seeing here, right? We have obviously we have Denmark, Norway, very, very high on the social mobility index. But the funny thing is that all these countries, right, rank higher than the United States in terms of economic freedom.
Hmm.
But
So which means that
Also check
the,
That's
their
my
skill
is it
point.
level.
which means that, and we know that economic freedom increases wealth. Do you agree with
Hmm.
that?
Precisely,
So
that's why you provide welfare for people to give them more economic
yes,
freedom.
yes, that's what I'm saying. No, no, no. Like economic, not welfare, not economic freedom, like low business regulations. Um,
No, 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 no,
Most
no,
of
no,
the
no.
countries here have
Those
relatively
Nordic
low
countries have the
taxes.
highest amount of
Sweden
regulation.
has no, 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 no. That's not true. Check the
A
economic index freedom.
100%. Check their
Check the
tax rate is
2021.
way.
Look
Huh?
at look at the tax rate of Switzerland, right?
Mm-hmm.
The income federal income tax is 11.5%, right? And Switzerland ranks higher, almost 10 times higher on the social mobility index than United States. Sweden, among these ones with the social mobility index, Sweden has the highest tax rate, which is 57%, which is quite very, very high compared to the rest of the countries that are here. Let us check
Mm-hmm.
Denmark. Let us check Denmark taxes. But from what I'm seeing here, Denmark is number 5 in Europe in terms of economic freedom.
I am
So
very.
another,
I don't know.
can I come
I
in?
am.
Can I come?
Yes. Sorry. Go
So
ahead. Go ahead.
one thing we need to understand is that many of these countries, these Nordic countries, they built considerable wealth in a free market economy. After which they started uh, implementing many of these social welfare programs, and they have very highly skilled workforce and population, as well as possibly cultural attitudes also to would also factor in to why they have higher labor participation. Now, you said people would naturally want to better themselves, but people also take the least path of resistance in life, and many people will take the least path of resistance if that is
The
what is
least
offered
part
to
of
them.
resistance based on the incentive they are given. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, Charles, Kevin, what Kevin is saying is that he understands that, but what Kevin is saying that the data that we are saying, that is, we are saying that countries with large welfare states have
Mm.
high social mobility. That's what Kevin is saying. So from the global social mobility index that we just checked, that appears to be true. But then there are other factors that we need to check as well. Like for example, the index of economic freedom that I just gave. And we also have to check what is the ratio of the welfare to GDP ratio of all those countries, which I'm checking right now. I will be
Okay.
with you guys shortly.
But
Okay.
the point I'm making here now, why are you guys like? I am a capitalist. I like the market. I like markets. I am not sure what's the contention here. Like this is an indisputable fact. Like when I like we can we want people to work, but sometimes people fall behind in life,
No,
and we have to.
the contention is that you do not believe that welfare de-incentivizes work.
No, it does. It does not. People like they like Kevin. Check this out for me. Like as I alluded to early on in the discussion, there was a labor shortage right after Joe Biden passed the stimulus check in the United States. There was a labor shortage. An employer was
Go to work.
complaining that their people doesn't want to work. But
Yeah.
what because they were very reluctant to increase their wages. As they increased their wages, like their application was full with people that want to work. The truth is, people are if you're getting more government, if you're giving more government help, staying on welfare, you're not gonna work. People respond to an increase in wages. Wages is what incentivizes people to work.
So,
That is an
question
indisputable
for you.
fact. And I'm saying, wait there,
Question for you,
let's make this
Kevin.
point. And I'm saying that wages hasn't kept up to based on over the year. That was my point. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Okay, so it does seem to me that it is the government welfare that necessitated the need for increased wages in the first place. If the government had not rolled out a stimulus check, wouldn't people have gone to work at the offered prices?
Oh, yes, sure.
Okay,
But that would
so
mean that,
it,
but that
it,
would mean
it
more people will be impoverished. People won't be able to put food on their meal. Like some people have their kids to send to the doctor. More child will be
Um,
like there's a lot of
okay, Kevin,
consequences
I'm
to
saying
those
something
things.
here now. So where is social spending the highest and lowest? So France is social spending as a share of GDP in selected countries in 2019. So France is the highest with 31%. Are you hearing me?
Go ahead, sir.
Then we have Finland. France is the highest with 29%. We have Finland. So the US is above Canada in terms of social spending
Mm-hmm.
to GDP. But in our social mobility index, Canada is above the US by such a far degree. So
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to bring out is that are you certain that welfare
Man,
really correlates with social mobility?
your way of proving stuff is I'm not sure. Like I was talking to Charles before you get on about how people throw numbers and not showing how they correlate with each other. Like you can throw numbers, but you have to show the direct link between one number and the
Yeah,
other.
that's what.
What you're
Yes,
doing
yes.
is just throwing out number right now.
No, no, yeah, no, no, no. We were talking about how welfare doesn't disincentivize work, and you brought out as proof that welfare doesn't disincentivize work. That was your proof that
Yeah, but I'm
check
saying
the
that
global social. Yeah, you said
no, I said I can't. No, I am making that assertion, and I'm saying that
yes.
assertion is backed up by ample research done
Yeah,
by
but the
these
the
countries
example you
that.
brought out was the global social mobility index, which we all checked, right?
Mhm.
As evidence for your point that welfare does not de-incentivize work.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying the global social index prove my point. But in terms of social mobility, there's a lot more factor that is contribute to mobile social mobility. And I can give you a study that analyze those factors, but I cannot just throw two numbers and say that is
No, no,
indicative
okay,
of my
so
point.
the global social mobility index was not as a proof to your point that welfare does not incentivize work. It was just an example.
It helps strengthen my point. Yes.
Okay, so we agree that there are other what they call there are other factors that affect social mobility apart from just welfare.
Oh, definitely.
So so that goes back to my original point of the studies that do you study the which families, right? Whether those families check the list of the families and their generations for like follow them for maybe 20 years and check if families on welfare leave the welfare. Like are there
But
studies like that?
I already gave you the reason why people doesn't have the incentive to leave welfare.
No, but he wants
Because of
objective data on how long
because
people stay on welfare and
no
whether
no
people
Charles
get
Charles,
off
yeah, I understand
welfare.
what he's saying. What he's saying is that the reason why people don't leave welfare is because the wages are not high enough to incentivize them to leave the work, to leave
I
the
mean, in
welfare. If the
Sweden,
wages were high
it's
enough, they
only
would leave.
$20.
So that now goes to how do we increase wages? Do we increase wages through the minimum wage law?
All right. How do we? What? That's one reason. That's one way in which we can increase minimum wage.
Okay, what are the
Secondly,
other ways?
we can increase unionization. That's
Okay,
a way in which we increase wage.
okay,
Secondly, we can provide tax incentive to business that increase their wage. Like there's a lot of factors here that plays here. Like if we can say to a company, if you provide adequate healthcare to your workers, your employees, we can give you this tax break. Like those
okay,
stuff increase wages. Yes.
okay.
And like
So why are we
unionization.
not doing that?
Sorry.
Why are we not doing that? Why are we not doing that instead of giving um,
Oh,
um,
because there's a
welfare
political
to
climate.
I agree with you on the last one, probably giving tax breaks to people that increase wages. But my own personal belief with increase in wages is I think the most important factor and the best way to increase wages is by improving the skills of the people. So I think that if there is a way that education can
I
be
mean,
improved in
people in
all these
China today, no, no, no. Remember, the reason why China today have a booming economy is because there's been a displacement of labor to China.
yeah,
And the reason why those
the reason
labor
why
end up
China
in, yeah, the reason why China economy is booming because there's a displacement of labor to China. Not because they were skilled workers. It's because those people were work for nothing or less in China. So
those people work for sorry they're making noise in my at the back of there. So I didn't hear you.
no, I'm just saying the reason why there's a real reallocation of labor to China, a lot of
Okay,
American companies move to China.
okay,
It's not because it's because the wage in China has been extremely low right now. And
okay.
the
So
reason,
that is why China has economic boom. Oh, I didn't get.
yeah, so corporation now have the incentive because corporation want to lower their wage as much as
Yeah,
possible.
I know that corporations do move out to get
Yes.
cheaper labor outside
Mhm.
of the country. But I don't really like you said that was why there's economic boom in China.
Yeah, definitely.
so so does
So
that not prove that once the wages are competitive that the economy will boom?
But one, no, 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 no. In a capitalist country, there's no incentive for people to increase their wage.
the wage of the workers. No, that's not true.
No, there's no wait there. Do you want me to layer the history for you? Like the struggle that we have to go through to get weekend off from work? Like child labor was we had to go through to get child labor off the books. Like there's a lot of what would I say? Then are a lot of changes that has come about because people were willing to say, hey, we cannot orientate orientate our economy based on profit maximization. Like there's no incentive for a company whose main goal is to maximize profit. And remember, I am a capitalist, but I have to acknowledge like there are a lot of market failures. And how do we account for those
Yes,
market failures?
they are always market failures because human beings are not perfect, so they will always be market failures. But
Yeah.
you said that there is no reason for a company to pay higher wages to its workers,
Hmm.
which I don't agree with.
All right, wait. Do you think if a company can sell an umbrella for $1 million, or even when that umbrella worth $10, they will not sell it for the $1 million.
If they sell it and somebody buys it, if nobody buys it,
Exactly.
then
So the
there's
point
no
is, it's not the inherent value that is that.
somebody needs to buy that umbrella.
But
Like
exactly that is
companies
my
just
point.
don't
But
put
suppose,
arbitrary
but
price tags
suppose, we don't
on their
suppose,
product.
suppose, wait, no, suppose the umbrella
It's the
is an
What
same
he's
way.
okay. Look. Well, he's saying that if people are going to buy the umbrella for $1 million, they would sell it for $1 million, even though it's not worth that much, because they are there to make profit. That's how companies run.
Yeah,
Now,
but
he's no, but his argument is that if there were no regulation or no way to, I guess you can say, regulate how do I put this? Like the human rights
to
in the
regulate
company.
wages.
Yeah, that they will sell it for as much profit as they
Okay,
can.
yeah, said
But, but
the
yeah,
company want to pay you as low as possible, right? To
yeah. So
maximize profit. I know
it's
that.
not arguments that they will pay
Yeah,
their
sure,
workers
sure.
as little as they
Even
can.
even when I hire help for my work, I try to pay the person as low as I can. But the problem is that there is still a minimum limit to how low I can go, depending on where that person can find work elsewhere.
But see, if there's no work and it's only you and you're hiring
Oh yeah,
a
yeah,
person.
definitely, no doubt, no doubt.
Yes.
It,
So
yeah,
so, so I,
look at bricklayers now in Nigeria.
mhm.
How much do
Yeah.
we pay them compared to somebody like an architect or something? Or the people that
Almost.
dig what they call it. So if there is a very very large supply of workers in that particular field, the wages are going to be very low. But if there is a low supply of workers in that field, there is no how the wages are going to drop. The wages will rise because everyone wants that person, right? So where I agree with
Mhm.
Kevin is that now in that case, right, we can now try to help and you know what do you call it and incentivize the companies to pay a higher wage to those people by unionization and minimum wage laws and tax breaks. That's what Kevin's point is. So, but
Mhm.
as with everything, everything has pros and cons, and I think Kevin agrees with that. So one personal, although this might not be, this is just but one personal anecdotal experience that I have with unionization is like I told you guys, right? Like I deal with people from from the US, right? So the field right now they are not unionized, so they are trying to get unionized. One of the reasons why they are trying to get unionized is that they want to stop jobs from leaving the United States,
Okay.
right? So once that unionization happens, the people who are going to be affected are people like me.
Mhm.
So
Okay. Yeah.
one disadvantage of unionization is gatekeeping, right? The people
Mhm.
in the unions they enjoy the benefits, but then they seal off the competition. So the people
Well,
who
of
are trying to
course.
get in get stopped.
Guys, thank you for having me on the panel. I gotta cam down. When's the next time you're going back up, Charles?
Uh, that should be Monday.
Monday. Okay, what time?
Yeah. Um, same time, and I believe we'll have something much more interesting than.
Oh no, it was real interesting. I just gotta take care of something real quick. Thank you,
Oh,
guys.
Yeah, but by the way, Kevin himself, I remember you. Like, it's nice to see you again.
Oh yeah, you as well. Thank you very much. Hey, by the way, how late
Yeah,
will you guys be up actually?
I'm
We
not
should be
sure. Like,
done within the hour. We should be
Okay.
done
Yeah,
within the
I'm
hour.
gonna be leaving in half an hour too on KB's channel, right, for the colorism thing. So if you can swing by,
I
that'll
am
be
as well. Yeah,
Okay.
because
Me too.
I
so. Yeah,
All right. Thank you guys.
all right,
All
take
right.
care,
Thanks for
brother.
coming.
Yeah. Take care.
take care.
So, who was talking?
Yeah,
Resonance or Kevin?
I was talking. I was just trying to like talk about the pros and cons of these different methods. So my entire point boils to is that a lot of these things very depend on like the population demographics of the particular place where you're trying to implement these policies. For example, now something like uh, a minimum wage law now might not work that well in a country like Nigeria, for example.
Mm.
So and like I don't want to keep going back to my point of like the United States is a very large country that we tend to underestimate sometimes, right? So a lot of the social programs, and I was even surprised to see how high the United States rank in social spending. I used to believe that the United States does not even have a very, although it's not as robust as the some of the Scandinavian countries, but it ranks actually quite high. So the United States definitely has a very large social economy. That's just what I was trying to say.
Well, of course,
Okay,
yeah.
Kevin.
Um,
Kevin.
So I would,
Uh,
yes.
yeah. So you
okay.
can point earlier. You can respond to.
Oh yeah,
Can
I
actually, Kevin. So, what's your main argument with or your main disagreement with resonance?
oh, my main disagreement is people. I heard it. I've consistently heard the argument that welfare makes people not want to work, and I'm just saying that that argument is not substantiated at all. Like, give me 2 minutes. I want to make 2 minutes. 2 minutes to
Go
tell the
ahead.
people where this idea come from. That welfare doesn't work, right? So I think it was in 1945, like 1940 to 1945, with the New Deal with FDR, where FDR planned, because many of the social programs that we have today is a direct consequence of some of the policies that FDR implemented in the 1940s because of the Great Depression. So now, fast forward now back to Ronald Reagan's. His idea now was to remove people dependency of the government. And his way of removing people in the dependency of the government was to slash the allocated budget for welfare. So he go around disparaging health welfare, say the idea of welfare queen and those terminology was introduced. But I'm just saying it's just a idea that we have been inculcated with over the past to say, hey, this doesn't work. And all of the proponents of that idea hasn't been able to substantiate one bit that it doesn't work. When every modern country and modernized country have adequate welfare, better social mobility, and higher general income when adjusted for the population.
Uh,
No,
That's it.
does the
that was
US
just
have
what
does the US
that
have
was,
a welfare system currently?
Yes,
yes.
The US welfare system was introduced after the Great Society by Lyndon B. Johnson.
That's what I was trying
So
to point
so
to you at, Kevin.
how
That
effective has it been? How effective has it been compared
There's
to
been a
the Scandinavian countries?
there's been a lot of complaint that the United States welfare system has been adequate enough to alleviate the people out of poverty at the rate that it should. Because remember, there should be this idea of government and private business interaction. A welfare shade should be a temporary holding for an individual that is in need of
Uh,
a job. That's the
Kevin, I have a
idea of a welfare
question.
shade.
Kevin, I have a question. I don't really understand the US welfare system. They have unemployment benefit. What's the difference between unemployment benefits? Is unemployment benefits under welfare?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Continue.
Yeah, so that was the idea point. We
Yeah,
like in Sweden, the minimum wage, and there's no
it's $15
legal
an hour.
minimum wage is 20. No, it's $20. Isn't it
No,
$20?
20 sec. That's $15 an hour. 20 sec, like 20 Swedish, whatever they call it.
No,
Like in their own.
equivocate it to the United States dollar money. I think
you're
it's
right,
20. The
Kevin.
last time I checked was $20 per hour. That's
You
the
mean 20
minimum.
USD dollars?
Yes, when you equivocate their minimum, and their minimum wage in Sweden is not mandatory. Like it's a market adjusted minimum wage. But how we compensated for that is for them to have better unions. So what union does, it
122.
increases their ability to negotiate wage within a corporation. So
It's
they have
$15
strong
an
union.
hour.
You don't need minimum wage if you have a strong union. The
It's
reason why
15
people need
$15
minimum
an
wage
hour.
is when unions are not strong enough. Because unions
Yeah,
should be able to negotiate your wage.
yeah. What type of unions do you mean? Like union in every sector?
I'm not sure, but generally union
Okay, like
works.
strong, generally strong, like unions that have let's say political power, or what do you mean by stronger unions?
Yeah, union that have more negotiating power that can demand higher wages for their employers. Yes, because
Yeah,
that's
but
one of the reasons why wages has been so stagnant for the last 50 years. Because it's been as a disintegration of union, the less ability employers have now to negotiate their wage. That's why that's one of the reasons wages has been stagnant over the
um,
time.
I,
Corporation has gotten too powerful and union has gotten too weak. That's I would say a direct effect of Reaganomics.
what is Reaganomics?
Okay, so Reaganomics is somewhat counter to the New Deal. The idea that and this was the point of discussion today, like the idea that we cut taxes on corporation, we slash government expenditure to stimulate the economy. So that's in a nutshell is Reaganomics.
Okay.
Okay, now
Yeah,
that
but
you
The,
mention it, maybe we should just dive into that discussion and talk about tax cuts. Are they effective as a tool for stimulating the economy, and who do they benefit the most? So just give us an overview, and when are they necessary? When are tax cuts necessary? When are they detrimental? So
so
okay, can I?
this.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah. So my personal opinion is uh a lot of these things depends, right? When we talk about task cuts, who are we talking? Is it task cuts to whom?
Tax cut for corporations.
For just corporations?
no, I mean
Yeah, that's
income
what
income
Reaganomics.
tax,
That's what
income
Okay, income
tax.
tax.
Reaganomics was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. It depends. I think the issue with tax cuts is about choosing your poison. How do you want to one of the biggest problems that we can see is uh if you don't how do you want to increase government revenue and cut taxes at the same time? It's not possible, right? You,
What if
you have to
more if
choose.
more people are working? If more people have more disposable income,
And
and more
no,
people
we're talking
get into
about
the
tax
labor
cost to
force?
corporations here. No, obviously tax cost to income we benefit everyone, but tax cost to
Okay.
corporations is different, right, Kevin?
Yeah, man, I agree.
Okay, so we're talking about tax cost to corporations. So the thing about tax. I was trying to do some research on taxes, and I got very confused at the point. Concerning taxes, increase in taxes, and the corresponding increase in revenue. So I just like to hear your points on that, Kevin. So,
Um, so tax cut. When we say tax cut, I'm speaking specifically of corporation tax cut. There's nothing inherently wrong with tax cut because you can cut tax on the middle class, right? And I have no problem with that because what we want to do, the idea is we want to stimulate spending in the economy. That's the idea. So the best way in which we stimulate spending in the economy is to ensure that people at the lower income have more money. That's always the idea. Like, if you give rich people more money, what they're going to do with that money? They're probably going to put it in the bank, invest it or something. But when you give somebody at the lower income level money, what they do, they go to one shop and spend the money. So that money is more have more velocity in the economy. So that is the idea. Like, if you give corporation more tax cut, and this is why, like, I don't think any economist today would say that Reaganomics is a good policy to carry out, because I think it's just a failure. Like, wealth inequality has been increasing drastically over the last 20 years because of this idea. Like, more and more wealth is being consolidated into fewer and fewer and fewer people. And this can be a good thing, but we have to acknowledge that, hey, this disadvantage certain sect of the population because wealth inequality prevent social mobility. And in every functioning country, we want a country to possess the idea that people can escape an income bracket and go up to the other income bracket. And tax cut does not do that at all because it does, like, even this pandemic proved that. Like, this pandemic, I think is eight person make more than $1 trillion, and then like 50 million people lost their job. Like, to to some people who would think about this thing sillily, will say that like these people work hard for their stuff, that's why they make the $1 trillion. But we all know that's not true. A person working 4 jobs is more hardworking than a man who sit down with his big gut and not do who claims to be hardworking and is not hardworking. So this idea of a meritocracy is just not true. Like, we have to identify that there are many systematic challenges that people have. And though we encourage people to work hard enough to escape their socioeconomic factor, we should acknowledge that giving people more freedom comes at challenging these systems. Like, it's the same thing with the Civil Rights Act, where we would tell a slave, say, hey, get up, pull your boot by the strap. Try escape slavery. Like, people escape slavery, so you should try escape slavery. But we should acknowledge that there's a system, which was slavery at the time, that tried to keep people in bondage. And Martin Luther King identified that and said, hey, we need to push through legislation to end slavery, and that will give people more freedom. Like, we want more people to have more freedom so they can operate individually, more responsible. And when they are more responsible individually, we will have a more collective society, which is better, efficiently run. Yeah, that was just my entire point here. I think this is not a
Okay.
non-controversial idea at all.
okay.
Okay. Where
What I'm
does
okay.
what, let me just ask a question. Where does opportunities come into play here? I mean, if you're living in the United States, and I think there are a lot of opportunities for work in the United States, um, how then does, I mean, if you're living in the United States where there are a lot of opportunities, why do people still need welfare? The
Um,
question
well,
I'm still
he
trying to wrap
said
my
a
head
lot of
around it, but
opportunity. Like when you say there's a lot of opportunity, what do you mean? Because the income, like the wealth inequality in America is so, like, it's very, very bad. Like the gap between, like I was looking at a gap, like in America, nine people have more wealth than 99, than 90% of the population. Like that concept by itself is not a free concept when, because remember, in a capitalist country, wealth is a proximity to power. People who have wealth can dictate legislation in the United States, and a person
true.
who is very wealthy does not vote against their interests. Of which corporation would never vote to increase the minimum wage? Like they don't want to pay people more money. They would never vote to give people health care. They don't want. So we have to identify that while opportunities are there, yes, the opportunities are there, but we have to identify that outside of those opportunities, there are systems that prevent people from, I always say, getting those opportunities. And I know we don't like to talk about race, which I don't.
Okay. So
You hear
resonance,
me,
you have a
guys?
question. Yeah, we
Yeah,
heard you.
yeah.
Why am I not hearing you guys?
I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you.
me?
Don't worry. I'm just yeah. I can hear you.
Okay. Resonance, are you there? Okay, I think he left. He will
I
come
think
back again.
I think it's cut off.
Resonance, yeah. Do you have anything to add to that? I think resonance is somewhere else. So my own sense is this, that instead of um, the welfare state, instead of pumping so much money into welfare, which I think a lot of it is also lost in the bureaucracy of welfare. A lot of the money goes into maintaining the bureaucracy that is the welfare. So the money really doesn't. Majority of the money still does not get to those who need that money. So there's inefficiency in the welfare system
But
as
there are
well.
people, man. Like I think this is. I'm wonder if this is callous. Like there are people. Just listen. Like do not make your world view shaped by some people you just see on the internet. Try to bring down welfare. Like as I own up to this, I am a capitalist. The idea of capitalism is to incentivize people. Like there are people out there who have kids like is dying from diabetes, like they don't have any money, they need they need like financial assistance to get along day to day. Do you know much people go bankrupt in the United States because they can't afford healthcare? Like do
Mm, I
you know a
agree.
lot of people who
Yeah.
don't go to
But
university
I need to
because
ask this:
tuition is too high?
why is the US so? I don't understand this anomaly in the US. I mean, it's a technologically advanced and developed nation, biggest economy in the world. Why are these social issues still predominant there when the Europeans seem to have figured it out? How come the United
Precisely
States
the
have not been
case
able to
that
figure it out?
that is the case. That is the case. Like, for example, this is a perfect example. And this is the idea of a market failure. The, the entire idea of a market is to allocate good based on supply and demand, right? No,
Yeah.
the idea of innovation is a market failure. You know why innovation is a market failure? Because it put people in other market at a disadvantage. And how does that keep up with price? For example, if a person is a diabetics, right, and want
Mm.
insulin, and their survival, their living day to day depends on that insulin. What incentive is there for a health insurance company to bring down that price if they are the one who discover insulin? No incentive. That's
No
why the jug.
incentive, true.
What was that?
I said no incentive, true, because they know you need
Precisely.
it
That is
and they know
so.
you have to
So
pay.
that is the idea of a market failure. The market does not allocate stuff well when it's it's just based on profit. Cause a man or a company does discover insulin, right? Will set the price very high because the idea of a capitalist country is to maximize profit, and that is the issue. You have to subsidize stuff where there's a market failure. In Canada, my brother is in Canada. My brother go healthcare is free in Canada. Free in Canada. Like the insulin in Canada, the insulin in America is 20 times greater than insulin in Canada. Because it's just a subsidization. We have to, in two cases, the market failure, and this is what I learned in school. Two-place market fail. The market fails when it comes on to education, and the market fails when it comes on to healthcare. Those are the area we need government assistance. Apart from that, the market is good. Love free market capitalism. But we have to identify that those two here, the market does fail. So as a government, like in America, very stubborn, very stubborn. Like Canada figured this out. The
I don't
UK figured
personally
this out.
agree with your with maybe healthcare, but with education, no, I don't agree.
Oh
Why do
yes,
you
like
disagree with it?
education. Like
Because
if you think, oh sorry. Go ahead, sorry.
if I use my country, Nigeria, as an example, the worst schools are public schools.
The
Am
worst
I
school
right?
are public.
The
I
worst schools
agree.
are
I
public
don't.
schools.
That is the point. That is the point. The worst
And
schools are.
it has gotten to a point where you have private schools that have you have private schools for every level of the economic class, at least in where I stay. Because there are
Mhm.
schools with school fees very, very low, and there are schools with school fees extremely, extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
So can you agree with me that in that instance, right, the market has provided education for
No,
uh
generally, no man. Generally, any economist will tell you we can find incidents that are outliers, but generally, like the public, like I went to for high school, I went to a public school. For primary school, I went to a public school. Like I am sure that if education was just private, a lot of people would not get any education. And one of the issue today, remember, and I'm gonna dip into the race issue a little because one of the issue back with pre-civil right was that schools were extremely segregated and there was a lack of adequate funding for black schools. So that was one of the issues they solved after the civil rights. But if you read reports on this now, in today's society, like on average, a white school receive $25 billion more than a black school. And while that is sad, we have to acknowledge that there are certain, like if I have a child, I would want my child to be able to have a laptop, to have extracurriculum activity. Like those stuff increase a child productivity. And we have to acknowledge that, hey, there are certain set of the population that does not have this at all. I know we don't like to talk about race, but there are a lot of racialized aspects that still predominates our society today still.
that dominates US, that dominates the United States. Like
So
not
you think the United States has properly rectified the issue of
no, I
race?
said that dominates you said in our society, like we are not in the United States. It's not
Oh
our
yeah,
society.
definitely, man, definitely. But
Yeah,
we
yeah,
know that
exactly.
a lot of our brothers and sisters are still in the United States. That's still a
Well,
fight
yeah,
for.
they should be fighting.
Well, it's not just US. It also is UK and like even in countries like in Kenya, some places in Kenya, South Africa, race is a factor there too.
Like I want you, like I want Charles.
Yeah, I'm here.
Why? I realize that for the channel, right? I realize you like Glenn Laurie and Thomas McWhorter. Um,
Yeah, I do.
I Yeah, man, but I want you to somewhat, you know what, you can have a more diverse view
Right.
of the black experience. Like I
I
do
agree.
think there's a lot more views out there, man. Like you'd find very interesting. Like I don't think they are somewhat they probably present themselves to be representative of the black voice. But I
No, they
think there
don't.
are out
They don't
there
present
that
themselves. They are well aware that they are
Don't actually.
outliers.
They're actually
They don't.
outliers. They're actually
They
this
are
thing.
well aware of that.
They are
They
kind
don't
of the
yeah,
present
but
flagship.
themselves. They don't present themselves as that way at all.
if when I listen to John McWhorter, he say that his views are commonly held in the black
No,
society.
he's
And I
you know no. He says that it's beginning to be commonly held. In all of their talks, they're always talking about how more people are coming to the realization, so to say. They are well aware that their views are not majorly held at all. Even as an
mhm,
outsider, I am aware, as an outsider, watching from the outside, I am aware that their views are not the majority of the black community.
okay,
Yeah,
I
but
get
even
you.
even
But
even even if we want to talk about their views are just they just try to shift away from the victimology type of view,
but
to present.
I agree with I agree with some of the stuff that they make or the description and the prescription that they made. But I do think there's a lot of voice in the black community that address those issues too, and they address it from a
Could you
different
recommend?
perspective.
Or
Could
what,
you
I
recommend
think
like
some
what?
of those?
Dr.
Like who?
Cornel West, and Professor Eddie Lloyd. Those people don't play too much in
uh,
the race. They
You just type
criticize.
it. Type their names in the comments in the
Yeah,
chat.
no
yeah,
problem.
I know Dr. Conner.
Well, what I will say
What
is
are the
this.
things that you disagree with the Glen Raleigh and the likes? What are the views that you disagree with?
What was
Me?
that?
I said, what are the views that you disagree
With with Glenn
with
Laurie.
Glen Raleigh? Yeah.
All right, so yeah, man. All right, so there's an issue, right? There's an issue that um Glenn Laurie and John McWhorter will acknowledge that history does place a significant does have a significant consequence as to how it
History,
play
history,
out in a what was that?
history, history. Did you say
Yeah,
history?
have a very
Okay.
have a have ways of playing out in our society.
Yeah. Yeah.
But but that's a very accurate description. But
Okay.
where I think we part ways sometime is the prescription. How do we
Okay.
move forward from here? And
Okay.
sometime I think their issue is to just leave behind the race, drop it completely, and just move on and not atone for some of the history and some of the setback that black people uniquely face in America.
Uh,
I agree that there are people in the black community that racialize everything. And I get that is a frustration we have at times that everything is about race. I get that and I agree. But I don't think the solution is to just abandon race like that. I
what
think
do
the
you mean by
solution,
abandoned race?
like they will say, like I listen to a podcast, like the
Okay.
case for color blindness. Like we should just
Okay.
view society now as a colorless society and don't address race.
Is that what
Yeah,
Glenn Lowry and I think that's more in line with Kemal Foster. I think it's
what was
Kemal
that?
Foster that Kemal Foster. I think is one that champions that a lot. I don't think
No man,
Glenn Lowry agrees with that with color
no man. I
blindness.
think they do, man. I think Glenn Laurie
Glenn
is more
Lowry, are
to
you sure?
Glenn
And Nick
Laurie.
Otter.
Coleman Hughes. That's the name of the guy.
No, Common Use and
Echo.
Kemal Foster, I know that they try to talk about color blindness, but I don't think I've heard Glenn Larry say that he wants a colorblind society.
No, yeah, man. Like I'm not sure if you're familiar with any of his reading. He does research too. You know, you can. check out some of them. They are very
Okay,
interesting
I'll
when I have
check
a
it out.
chance.
But I just, I watch his videos a lot, but I've never seen him. I've never heard him like talk about color. I think I've even seen a discussion where he had. I don't think Larry agrees with the colorblind society, but I may be wrong. But I'm not just sure about that. But
Okay,
but
one question, Kevin, what exactly do you think can be done for the Black community, um, that would address some of these inequities? What are those specific things that should be done?
That is a good question. So, right, there is the Jaguar. The Jaguar is one of the one of the essential like we complain a lot about fatherless home and how fathers are missing from their child, and the Jaguar undeniable have a negative impact on
yeah, no doubt.
fathers staying in the home. So that's a, like there are even studies out there that say like how much a low income family, have to spend for a person who get within the criminal system, and how much added expense this place on them. So that would be one step. The Jaguar, get rid of the Jaguar.
Yeah,
My other step is, we know this is just a universal thing, that the number one lifter of people out of poverty is education. Like, education is the number one reason to lift a
yeah,
person out of poverty. Yeah, I think we need to find ways of get more people, especially black people, into the educational system. I
yeah.
like
I agree.
there's a problem with funding. There is a problem with when it comes on to funding for black schools. Like, black schools are very underfunded in the United States. Um, healthcare. Healthcare is highly linked to a society productivity. Like, the more we provide adequate healthcare for individual, this increases their productivity. That is just logical. So we need better healthcare. Like, Canada does this, Sweden does this, a lot of country does this. So like those are three stuff that I think would have a definitely positive impact on the black society.
Okay.
Yeah, well then
I
your views
think
are not
those.
that.
Let me just resonance. Let
Okay,
me just say something
okay.
before you go ahead. I think those 3 points are excellent points. I think they will go a long way to address some of the issues. But my question is, in terms of welfare and education, how come, because they're all living in the United States, how come the Caucasians are able to access better healthcare and better um, education? Are there discrimination in terms of accessing those things, or it just
Yes,
boils
there
down
is.
to
There is.
funds?
Could I comment on that question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, obviously I'm not American, so I'm not really sure if I would strike up the nerve to answer this conversation. But anyways, I think it's more so because of the history that Black Americans have had. You know how that passes down from generation to the next generation. So most of them are not in position to have the higher quality schools because of obviously the history they had in that country, right? Now, the racism might not be overt, and they might not be like obviously so they can't say no black people in this school or not anymore, right? But based upon history and the cost of the schools, you see that some schools are inaccessible for most black people and they are more accessible for white people, if that makes any sense.
What do you
Not
mean
all
by
white people, of
inaccessible?
course.
What
Okay,
amounts to accessibility to a school?
well, if the cost of some schools and the area that some schools are placed in are away from black neighborhoods, right? And those schools are the best of the best schools, and those are the schools that have that bring out the best quality students. But black people can't access them because of the location and the cost. Considering the position of most black people in America, or most black Americans, I should say, that would mean that those schools will have mostly white students or students who are immigrants from like exchange students or so, who can afford those schools, right? So that's an example. whereas the schools that are in black neighborhoods would be ignored, often underfunded, often what's another word for it? Often often oftentimes the schools are not the best schools, and they don't produce good students. And we
So
can't just blame the
what are
students.
what are
Well,
the representatives? What are the political representatives of those districts? What are they doing about such inequities
now
in terms of?
I can't answer that question because I'm not even sure about that, to be frank with you. But what I was saying was that some might say, why aren't the students doing well in some of those schools? But you can't really blame the students, because if majority of the students are failing the class, it's not their fault. It's actually the school system or the teacher's fault. Because you can't tell me that all the students in the class are lazy and they don't want to study. That doesn't really add up.
Why?
Okay, say you're in JSS two and nine. Okay, let's say there are 30 students in the class and 28 of them fail. Are you saying that it's the students' fault for them failing, or would you look further into it and say, hey, maybe the teachers are not doing well, or maybe the school is not
No,
teaching them
no.
what they should learn?
Yeah. The what I asked why was you said that I agree with you, but you said that we cannot say that all the students are lazy, that kind of thing.
Well, see, I mean, many people will assume they're just lazy and don't want to study or whatever.
Okay,
But that
okay,
doesn't make
okay.
any sense, because it'll be more
Yeah,
deep than that. Because how can every student just be lazy and not want to study? It doesn't really make any sense.
okay.
Okay, what doesn't make sense to me is how such kind of disparity in terms of funding exists in current day America and nobody's talking about it. How it is not at the forefront
People talk about it.
Yeah,
People talk
yeah,
about
those
it.
conversations.
Racism, Charles. Because go on, go ahead, Kevin.
yeah, man. People talks about this a lot. I just
Right.
they think they're very reluctant on the right to like not like. Remember, there's a political spectrum in which people on the right tends to, what did I say? Um, less spending, like less government spending. People on the right,
But
that they still have the idea of Reaganomics.
I think you, we keep saying less spending, but I disagree because I don't think it's less spending. I think it's less spending on the right things because
No,
the
no, 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 no.
America has not really been able
Right
to
wing,
like cut
right
spending. Even
wing
under Trump, they couldn't
generally
cut
do not
spending.
like spending.
Yeah, but
Left wing is
when they
generally
get
more
into
spending.
the like Trump couldn't cut spending, even though that was one of his major campaign promises. He didn't cut spending. He's in fact spent one of the most amounts in I mean, due to the coronavirus, but he didn't cut spending. Even Reagan didn't cut spending.
Yeah,
So
Reagan
I
did
think it's
cut
more of
spending.
spending
Reagan did cut spending.
on the
Reagan
wrong
did cut
things.
spending and cut. No, man, no, 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 no. Wait, Ronald Reagan did cut spending on welfare, and Ronald
But
Reagan.
on welfare, did he increase it in other places?
Oh, no, no, no. Remember, that's the essence of Reaganomics.
No,
Like,
that's what I said. I
Not
said you
to
keep saying cut spending, but like you mean cut spending on welfare, but you just say cut spending because they never cut spending, right? They keep spending, but just on the wrong things is what I'm saying.
I think that is a generalization that.
well,
No,
see,
you are the one
not to
generalizing.
well,
No, not
not to interrupt you, but
generalization. Like the idea of fiscal conservative is something that is rooted in conservative ideology. Like even in
Yes,
Jamaica here, the right doesn't does a matter of fiscal responsibility. Don't spend much. They want to
but
balance the book. That's
they
just a
don't
right wing
do it. Is what
ideology.
I'm saying. They don't do it. They don't end up doing it. They don't end up balancing the books. They always have deficits.
Yes, but I'm saying that the right wing of the spectrum tends to want to spend less. So they believe in the right wing believe in the pure free market. Let the market
mhm.
determine the price. That's why you have right wing libertarian where there should be no government. Thomas Sowell was a libertarian. No government involvement in the economy.
So
That's
does
it.
not.
Just let
So
the
is not
market.
a
Well,
libertarian.
quick
So is more
question
of a
now.
conservative than libertarian.
What was that?
Now this is well, I have one quick question. Now it's a bit off topic, but I'm not familiar with Glenn Lowry and Thomas Sowell's watch. Are they like Candace Owens or who
No,
is
no,
similar
no,
to
no.
them
And
No,
Owens
in
no,
is a
no.
terms of?
political commentator. They are economists.
Yeah, these
Okay,
guys are
They are
economists.
economists.
okay.
John
I'll
McConnell
look
is a
into
little
them.
bit.
I'll look
So
into them because I'm not familiar with them.
I want to ask this question. In what quarters? I mean, I need someone to tell me who has been at the forefront of trying to drive for funds for black colleges or black schools. Because frankly, I really haven't heard that conversation.
Yeah, man.
Yet.
Like
So I need
the
to
two
know
person
what
that I sent in the chat,
Yeah,
just check
listen to
them out.
any liberal black commentator talks about it for underfunding
oh,
for even the liberal whites as well. They talk about it in on the Young Talk channel as well that black schools are underfunded.
okay.
Yeah,
So
but the Young Turks not talking about it doesn't make it not true.
no, no, I said they talk about it. They talk about it. I'm giving him examples of
But the
the
Young Turk,
people
I
that
don't
talk
think the
about.
Young Turk is mainstream. I think CNN and those
And no,
places very mainstream.
okay, 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 okay. Yeah, yeah, okay.
Because to me, it doesn't make sense that those schools are not getting funded. I mean, it really doesn't make sense. Because if they're not being funded, it means they're not getting the best teachers, they're not getting the best equipment, they're not getting the best in terms of um,
Well, that's why
maybe curriculum,
people
whatnot.
are complaining then. Yeah, that's why people are complaining because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they
So
know
Kevin, what
it's
do you
not
think
the same
about
standard.
the fight for school choice and charter schools?
Um, that's all right. So that's the that is somewhat of I remember watching Thomas Sowell religiously.
Okay,
This was a staunch proponent of school choice and
okay.
charter school. In theory, it's a good idea, but guess what? I don't think in practice that works. The reason why charter school doesn't work, it provide a caveat for people not to fund public school. Because the idea of a charter school is that you can move and go anywhere you want to go for school. But remember, there are schools in the inner city that, hey, not everybody can move. That is the point. Not everybody can move. And making some people move will still have those schools with poor infrastructure. And we have to address those poor infrastructure.
Good point.
So the
Good
reason
point.
So,
why people on the right propose charter school is a way to not fund public schools.
so all those charter schools, is it deliberate that is it all charter schools that are always how is the location like? For example, in a city like I don't know, can someone give me a city in America? Can you give me an example of a city where that has happened? Like from
Ask
that
Kevin.
you've
I'm
seen.
not even sure. Ask Kevin. I'm
Kevin,
not even sure.
Kevin.
What of Baltimore?
Yeah, what was that?
Okay, I said examples
Baltimore.
of where that has happened. That they have a charter schools. Then the charter schools are far away from where the kids are living.
All right, give me a sec. But I'm sure that has been one of the reasons.
And to what degree and at what rate?
Give me a sec.
I think education is so fundamental that anything that has to do with education should be given priority. I mean, funding and all that should be given priority, and there should be no
Uh,
little or no bottlenecks to all that. So I
yeah,
really
no
don't.
doubt, but no doubt, but where yeah, people might disagree with, especially is with Kevin, is how the schools should, like Kevin believes in government-owned schools, right? That government-owned schools are because yeah, Kevin said market failure. We have market failures comes with healthcare and comes with education. So might this even be like of
All right.
might this
So
even be like a government failure of some sort when it comes to, especially that when you have a government that is racially biased, that children of some sort of race don't get enough funding, is that can that be considered a government failure?
what was that? Go on again. What was the question? Can
Yeah,
you
I
answer
said,
it again?
can it be considered a government failure that we see this racial bias in funding of schools? So that is a
Mm-hmm.
clear example of government failure, right?
Yeah, because one of the issue with schooling, is that, and people has been trying to get rid of this for decades now, is the idea of tying property tax to the funding of school. When the reason why this is a problem is because people who live in a white neighborhood tend to have higher property value. Therefore, they tend to have higher property tax. So, tying property tax directly to the funding of school will disproportionately increase the funding for white school and disproportionately have an effect on black school. So that is why they are trying to remove property tax from the funding of school,
Okay,
because
is
this is a
property
very issue. Go ahead, sir.
okay, property taxes are fund, is it in whole or in part?
One again, what was that?
In whole or in part? Is it
I'm
the
not
whole?
hearing.
Is it the does the
Well,
whole?
he's saying, is this in whole or is it in parts, like the funding?
You're breaking up. You're echoing.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
Let me switch rooms. So he's basically saying, is the funding in whole or is it only part funding?
Oh, it's part. It's part. Yeah, man. This is some percentage.
Okay. So, but what about then teachers unions? Teachers, at least if there is any union that are strong in America, it's teachers unions.
I mean, teachers are like, you can Google it. Like, teachers are very underpaid in the United States. I mean, it's better in some country. Like, a lot of teachers from my country, Jamaica, is moving to America for teaching, but there have been very a lot of
No, I'm
complaints that
saying like but they have a very strong union,
I'm not sure how
at
strong
least
that union
relative
is.
to the to other
I
unions in
think the
America. I
police
think
union
teachers
in the
unions are one
United
of the
States.
strongest.
Police union in the United States is the strongest union.
The what?
The police
Okay,
union.
the police. I said relative. What about teachers union?
Hmm.
Like, where do they rank? If at least if they are not first, if the police
I'm
union is
not
the strongest,
sure
right?
no. I'm not sure, but union in general has been union participation rate generally has been decreasing since the 1980s, because Ronald Reagan was hell bent on destroying union.
Yeah, I
See,
understand.
I don't
I'm talking
understand.
about.
America is a very complex and complicated country. At times I think unnecessarily complex because those fundings,
It's
I don't
300
understand why they
million
are.
people.
I don't
300
understand why
million
they are
people, bro.
tied.
Well, see,
I know,
oh,
but I don't understand
I,
why those fundings are not tied to needs. Rather, why are they tied to property taxes? Why are they not tied to needs of the schools?
before you answer, just 1 second, sorry. Um, Charles, it was nice being here, and thanks again for having me. I didn't
You're
quite
welcome.
have much insight on this topic, so I didn't really talk much, but
It
it
was
was great
myself
listening.
as well, but I was just here to learn. So
Yeah, me as well, me as well. So I have to join a different live stream now, but thanks for having me on here.
Okay, bye, bro.
thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I will leave soon
hopefully
too.
we can all do a live together some other time as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so, so
And yeah, and please email me before you do your next live so I know, just in case I forget.
right. I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. So, Kevin, over to you.
Hmm.
I
So
think
I was asking why are the fundings for these schools, why are they not tied to the needs of the school? Why are they tied to property
You
taxes?
know,
That's the
the
question.
thing is, we probably don't want to acknowledge, but um, um, I was watching an interview with Tanisi Coate and John Marquardt. I think it was posted on this channel, right?
Yeah.
And I know some people don't like Tanishi Coates because I think he racialized everything. But I think sometimes we have to just look. There's sometimes some substantive critique to what he's saying. And there are some people who focus just on the racial issue, and some people focus on the economic issue. But one of the points he made in that video was, hey, racism in its most potent form was never overt, was subtle. And that to me was very interesting because people discriminate a lot, but it doesn't have to be obvious. Like if you go back and you read on the Southern strategy, right? That Southern strategy was the idea of dog whistle. A dog whistle is basically you're sending a signal to white people, but you're implicitly discriminating against black people. The idea of a tax cut is a dog whistle. The idea that people are stealing a job, like all those people, all those phrasing feed into the psyche of white people. Like if you look into the criminal justice system, there's a lot of racial element to the criminal justice system. Like the FBI found, I think in 2015, like there's a lot of police department that are very, very racist. And this is my problem with some black intellect on the right. Like they don't want to acknowledge like a lot of these stuff. I, I acknowledge that a lot of people talk about race too much, and it's true. Like the Democrat Party does talk about race. That's all they do, talk about race. And sometimes it's so frustrating that we just don't want to talk about it anymore. But my aim is to constructively talk about it, acknowledge where it plays a part and where it doesn't plays a part. And some people just explain it away. Hey, this is a racist outcome. Well, it's not really race. It's something else, right? This is something else, and they don't really acknowledge it. And the two person I send in chat, like Cornel West and Eddie Glide, they talk about race, but I think they tie it to an economic issue in which we address economical issue while we address race. And I think I appreciate their critique of the current system more than some people who just give some like insipid, mundane critique. Because people forget who Martin Luther King was. Like they right now, not sure if this is a word to use, but they whitewash Martin Luther King. Like when I hear people talk about Martin Luther King today, it's like they forget who Martin Luther King was. Martin Luther King was very anti-capitalist. Martin Luther King was a socialist, was a very radical guy who critiqued capitalism so much. Like he understand that within capitalism, it is inextricably linked from white supremacies. Like the idea of an exploitative relationship remains in capitalism, and we need to pull out that exploitative relationship from capitalism in order to elevate black people. So the idea is not talking just be black, 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 black. We talk about black, but we have to tie that talking about black
uh,
to an
Kevin, can I
economic issue.
interject?
Yeah,
Can I
man, sure, go
interject?
ahead.
Yeah. So, are you a capitalist or a socialist?
I am a capitalist.
Okay. I think you are
Yeah, but
more.
that's what I'm saying.
You are a left. You are a left-leaning capitalist.
What was that?
You believe in private property, but you believe
Yeah,
in
man,
government
I am a
intervention of
capitalist.
the.
But
Uh,
I have to
but
acknowledge that
you seem
there's
to.
mhm.
Okay, continue.
No, but I'm saying I have to acknowledge that there has been a lot of failure under capitalism. I don't think the solution is to go to socialism. I like certain country implement certain modules. That's why I quote Canada a lot because I have a brother that live in Canada. I quote Sweden a lot. I quote Finland a lot. I quote Denmark a lot because those countries are capitalist countries and they allocate their wealth at best perfectly. Like those are the capitalist country I like. I do not like a country like in America that is just primarily focused on wealth accumulation and profit maximization. When that is a point, capitalists fail. We have to adjust to people need and put people at the front, not profit. And I think capitalist alone won't solve it. I'm a capitalist, man. I do not think socialists or socialism carry about the solutions that I want. I think whatever has been implemented, there's been a failure, and I don't think it's a adequate way we incentivize people to work. So that's why I like the framework of capitalism, like the idea of demand and supply, allocating price and those stuff. I think the market does a fantastic job at allocating price of like 99.9% of goods. But we have to acknowledge that when it comes on to healthcare and education, there is a market failure there.
Okay,
Okay,
well,
great
I just
conversation
wanted
so
to
far.
talk about,
Uh, Resonance.
yeah.
Let's try and wrap up the conversation in the next five
Okay, okay,
minutes.
okay, okay. I just want to talk about Martin Luther King, and you said he was fiercely anti-capitalist. The reason why I asked you whether you are a socialist or you are a capitalist is that you seem to be
Hmm.
very, very, you seem your voice was like in a supportive tone of Martin Luther King supporting capitalism. Basically, that Martin Luther King thought that capitalism was an exploitative system, and
Hmm.
I just think that, and we've already made a very very good critique of socialism as well. That capitalism allocates prices best. But what do you think about socialism? Socialism is common ownership of the means of production, right? Don't you think that racism, right, and racial inequities, right, will be greatly magnified in a socialist system?
Probably. I'm not
Because
sure.
if
Mhm.
no no, it's like, just hear my reasoning, right? If we have a system, like for example, now look at the school funding that you are talking about, right? So if we had a system where every all the property belongs to the state, right, and the state is extremely racist, who do you think are going to suffer the most?
I agree. I agree that this will be of a
So
negative
that's why it's very
consequence
very
on black
strange for me
people.
to hear someone like someone who like Martin Luther King, who knows that the or who believes or who knew that the United States is a vastly racist country. And unless he wasn't looking for secession, why would he believe in a system like socialism? Why would he believe that the whites will hand over their property to the blacks?
I think Martin Luther King idea of socialism was not state-owned firms or institutions, workers owned. Like
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether
Martin,
it's workers owned, as long as they are the majority.
with Martin Luther King, he was not a what do I say economically literate person. He just identified certain injustice, and he say, hey, he mainly talk about wealth distribution and those stuff. Like
Yeah,
so
but if the anyway, yeah, you are right. It was not an economist, but uh where racism will most persist, right, is where the majority has the most power. So if they control if the United States was a socialist country, right, and you don't want to talk about worker co-ops, uh, where the majority of the workers, right, will still be white. They will still do everything in their interest and against the interest of the blacks, regardless of whether it is worker owned, community owned. So unless you are looking for a secession and saying that, okay, we want out, we will model our system like this. You do you. You get me?
mhm.
So, but as long as they are together, the worst system for blacks will be a socialist system.
Yeah, I don't really disagree. I agree.
So I think we can wrap it up now, right?
Yes. So let me just say thank you very much, Resonance and Kevin B. Black. Uh,
Yeah,
I just it was the conversation has been between the both of you, and I loved your insights. I loved the kind of questions Resonance were you're posing out, and I loved the responses that Kevin was giving. Some of these things I've never like I say, I've never heard. I'm not an economist, but I think I'm interested in these things because I want to know how um, people can better themselves, how they can socially migrate. And I want to know the effects of government assistance on people's ability to better themselves. I do believe that there's a middle ground. I believe that welfare has its benefits and welfare has also has its demerits. There are those that are going to take advantage of the welfare system and they are not going to try to benefit themselves. And also, it would be pathological, it would be evil for you to let people to just fall flat without a safety net underneath them. So I think that the Europeans have been able to figure out that balance properly, where they maintain a free market economy and also they have a strong welfare system. And I think in this age
yeah.
we tend to
The,
we tend to confuse welfare with socialism. I think those two things should be
yeah,
distinct, and I think
they
those
are
two things
different.
should be yeah they
Yeah.
should
The
be
funny thing is,
defined separately.
a lot of these European countries, right? They rank very, very high in terms of free market,
Yeah,
measurements. I was very, very surprised.
Yeah, because welfare is not socialist; it's a
No,
capitalist.
yes, it's
I know
what I've
that we
even
can
told.
separate welfare from the economics. Like I'm aware of that. Well, you have the impression that the United States is like the freest market in the world. It doesn't seem to be the
And they
case.
have
So
the United States has they have very good PR. They will tell you they're the best in this, the
yeah,
best in that, in
I
this.
used to joke that everybody knows what goes on in the United States,
You
but
know,
we think we know what goes
yes,
on. So yeah, they have such a great reach in the world. Look at anything they do. Everybody is always looking at it. The my interest for economics came from the United States.
same here.
Uh, Movies, everything, United States, everything, every single thing. You want to watch election, you have teams. In Nigeria, you have the Trump people, you have the Biden people. Like, what concern us? Let us face our own problems. So they have such a great uh, reach in the world. It seems that
Yes, they do.
everybody knows at least something about the United States, and it's how they did that. I mean, that's yeah, it's uh, that country, man.
So,
That country.
Kevin, just give us your parting words for now.
Yeah, man, I really do appreciate being on, and I enjoy the conversation as always. Yeah, man. It's really good like this because I do read a lot of these stuff and I like watch a lot of these guys. So sometimes, and I have a set of belief. So it's always good to be challenged. And
Yeah,
your fundamental beliefs. And I really like the conversation. Yeah. The point is
thank
just
you very
always
much.
learning. That's the only way we can move on. Learn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Acknowledge the failure. And yeah.
So,
and of course, the
So
most
what will be
important
the
thing is
next topic?
to
What
take
will
care
be
of
the next
yourself.
topic?
thank you
Yeah,
guys for
man.
coming. I really, really appreciate. So, when
Kevin
next
is
I'm doing
asking,
the Kevin, you said
What's the
so what
next
will be the
topic,
next topic?
Tony?
next topic. I didn't get that. Could you repeat?
Yeah, what will be the next topic of discussion we have the next time we discuss?
I've not thought about that. If you have any particular topic in mind, you can throw it out. But we can do something on Monday.
All right, then no problem.
Okay. So let's think about something to talk about it. So thanks guys for coming. I really, really appreciate have a great day or a great night wherever you are. So
Yeah, man. Same
it's
to you.
night
And
Take
time
care.
over here, so good
don't
night.
forget to take care of yourself.
Yeah, take care of yourself.